Welcome to She Means Business. Mecca Ibrahim is a quiet force reshaping the food world. As co-founder of Women in the Food Industry and former leader at Great British Chefs, she's made it her mission to spotlight the women the industry too often overlooks. In our conversation today, she talks candidly about her love, or her early love of food, the barriers female chefs and founders still face, the change she's determined to drive, and of course, the festive flavors and traditions she's embracing this season. Welcome, Mecca.
Hi, Lynn. Good to be here.
Good to
Thank you for
see you
asking me.
again.
Yeah,
So
no, thank
lovely,
you
and
for asking me.
congratulations on your recent award.
Oh my God, yeah, hospitality hero.
We love that, and
You see
I
the
know
mug?
that you
I've got the
are.
mug. I've got the mug. Do you want to see the mug? I should be drinking from it. I
Yeah,
should be
you should be
drinking from
drinking from it, actually.
the mug.
Maybe that will lead to another one. There we go. We love that.
A gold
Excellent.
mug. Yeah.
Excellent. So, before the industry roles, the platform building, and the advocacy, where did your love of food actually come from? Where did it begin? Was it a family thing, a cultural thing, or a moment that sparked your lifelong connection to food?
Um, I mean, I love eating. I love food. I'm quite a greedy person, and I hate it when I've got a cold and I can't taste things, and I just love food. So yes, I've been like most people, I've been eating all my life. But I suppose professionally, do you mean where did my love for food come from? Maybe let's go professionally because like I've always loved food, and I can't pinpoint that to a particular moment in culture or anything because I've just always loved it. But back in goodness, 2007, I believe it was when we started. Nom nom nom. I started working a project. I used to be a blogger about the London Underground, so I used to blog about London, and I was in that whole blogging scene. So this is in the days before Instagram and before TikTok. So a long time ago, people just about were beginning to get smartphones, just about, but most of the time they didn't have a smartphone, they just had a normal phone. And as a London blogger, again, bloggers at the time used to blog about food reviews. They didn't blog about their own recipes. So I always wondered if food bloggers could actually cook and whether they liked eating. So I got together with my friend Rosalind Rathouse, who runs Cookery School at Little Portland Street, and we decided to set up a master chef for bloggers. And that's kind of how it started. We gave them a challenge like they would have had on MasterChef. They worked in pairs and they had to go off to the shops and buy food and cook a three-course meal in the space of an hour and a half. And the only things were that they had a few store-cut ingredients. Everything else they had to buy on the day. That's part of their time. And also it had to be sustainable. And again, back then, to do something sustainable was actually quite something because people didn't really know what sustainability was back then. And it was like a sort of, they had to research it and find out what it actually meant. So that's when I started, and we ran this, and it just kind of got bigger and bigger. It started, I think, probably with like a dozen people, and we ended up having like about 50 people doing this annually each year. And we were raising money for Action Against Hunger. And we ended up raising over about £5,000. And we had some amazing judges. So people like Tom Aikens, Allegra McBeady, the founder of Leon, or one of the co-founders of Leon. We had the editor of Delicious magazine. We had Tom Hunt. We had really, really amazing chefs who all kind of wanted to be involved because, like I said again, this was in the days before social media was really was really going, and Twitter was around. And I think at one stage we actually trended on Twitter, just in London, because there were not so many people on it. So that's, I suppose, professionally, and I did that as a hobby, but we did it once a year, I guess, for 5 years. And in that period of time was when I got my job with Great British Chefs. So that's kind of how it helped me, because it was doing something that was a hobby, but involving like food bloggers and chefs and food writers and the whole concept of cooking and cooking with a story. I think that's
Yeah.
really where my interest has always been. It's always been about not just the food itself, but usually what's the story behind it. So that's really how it started.
Well, you've built a career, championing women's voices across the food industry. What pulled you into the industry professionally? I mean, outside of this original, okay, blogging. And when did you realize that, you know, your skills were and your passions were aligned with this?
Yeah, yeah. So I think linking the social media with food was something that very much happened when I was at Great British Chefs. So prior to working at Great British Chefs, I worked with some really big online companies. So, and again, at the start of some of their community work, so I worked for Yahoo, for example, one of their first community managers. Yahoo. That was when Yahoo was sort of like a search engine to be reckoned with. Not so
God,
much
how
anymore.
we've moved on.
But yeah, not so much anymore. But it was a great thing to be involved with. So I was working on their sort of like precursor to again not around really much anymore, MySpace. It's called Yahoo 360. And that certainly taught me a lot about the whole community world and social media. And I was one of the first people to be on Twitter and started using Facebook, but for work, so like as a professional. And then I suppose when I was started Great British Chefs, which is still an enormous food platform of recipes. But we started off purely as an app with 12 chefs, and most of them were men. I think there possibly was one woman, possibly, on that app. But the 12 chefs were people like Marcus Waring, Nathan Outlaw, Tom Aikens, like really big household Michelin star people. I think the one woman we had at the time was Frances Atkins, who's based up in New York, who was one of the first UK female chefs to get a Michelin star. So yeah, it was combined, and again, the premise of Great British Chefs was, and very much still is, so many years later. I joined there in 2011, and it's still going strong now. Is very much a case of food with a story. It's very much a case of bringing together people that were interested not just in eating food and cooking food, but they wanted to know sort of like the origins of the food, where the food came from, what inspired the chef, how you could make that food potentially different, whether they were influenced by particular cultures. And even though we're called Great British Chefs, British was very much this is just basically where these chefs happen to be based. They were from all over the world, but they were based in the UK. So we weren't talking about just literally British chefs like who were making pub grub and banners and mash and stuff like that. These were guys that were making curries and French food, Italian food, and food from all over the world. And again, borrowing on different cultures.
That makes me, well, actually, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was just thinking, like you had these chefs that had some cultural diversity, maybe not necessarily themselves, but were interested in different kinds of food. But certainly one female chef must have been a frustrating thing for you. So what frustrations were reoccurring for you during that time before you actually started Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the point was our definition at the time of what made a great chef or a great British chef was that they had to have a Michelin star. And even to this day, there are still only like literally a couple of dozen women chefs in the UK that have Michelin stars, even now, which is kind of shocking. And it was only like the year before last that we had the first UK black female Michelin star chef. First year before last, and even worse, she's only the second in the world, which is exactly it's shocking.
It's shocking. It is shocking considering that women are the ones who predominantly do all the food preparation.
Yeah. So it's this whole concept of greatness, and I think that's where the issue lies. It's like deciding what is great. And we had to have an arbiter at the time of what was great. And our board at the time decided that it was having a Michelin star or equivalent, which meant that we were very open to very few women. We did obviously, because our company, Great British Chefs, was probably like 50-50 male, female. So it was something that we were getting addressed to us all the time. Why have you not got more women chefs on? Why have you not got more women chefs on your site? Why are there so many men? And we were like, yeah, but this is, we're not wild about it either. It's just the fact that was our definition, laid down by our board at the time. We did, fortunately, manage to get them to change that, and that we opened it up to a definition of women that were kind of like or people that were making waves in the industry. And that could be through books they had written, it could be through great food blogs they had, it could be through influential social media followings, because it was still all about food with a story. And we found that we were just cutting out great swathes of people who were doing amazing things in the industry, but they just were not, they just didn't have Michelin stars.
Yeah.
So what that led to were things like our Facebook cookbook club, which grew to it's probably one of the proudest things one of the things I'm still most proud of at Great British Chefs was setting up the Facebook group, the cookbook club. But it meant that we could introduce chefs that had written great books, and that people would cook from those books and talk about them and share them on Facebook. So it meant that we could bring on people like Asma Khan, Chantal Nicholson, Sabrina Gidder. We had a lot more women. There's still some women that I still wish we did have on Great British Chefs. We still never managed to get on. But those, I would say, are the most memorable, and the people that really seriously embraced the cookbook club, and also their passion to work with other women and to give other women spotlight, particularly people like Asma Khan. It was when I think she was probably of those chefs that I've named, the most inspirational to me at setting up women in the food industry. Because her book, her first cookbook, came out in 2018, and we knew that we wanted it to be one of our cookbooks of the month, and we kind of heard a rumor that she was going to be on Netflix's The Chef's Table, but we didn't know exactly when. And it happened to be exactly the same month that we picked her to be the book. So, not only had she completely literally exploded by being the first British chef to be on The Chef's Table, Netflix's The Chef's Table, which just completely catapulted her career into literally stratosphere. But she also was able to show people, oh my God, look, I've got thousands of people. It's literally, we have about 30,000 people in this Facebook group by the time I left. I've got thousands of people who are cooking from my book every day and talking about it and sharing their pictures, and I'm able to have conversations with them. And it's this nice sort of great conversation that you can only really have on social media. Whenever anyone produces a cookbook, normally, unless they've got a test kitchen and a group of people that are prepared to cook the recipes, they don't actually get too much feedback on what the recipes are and what alternatives could be used. Like, say, if you were going to make something like a curry and you didn't have curry leaves, could you use a different type of instead, or could you use a different type of spice instead? And if you did, how would that work? So that's not often a consideration that actually happens with cookbooks, and I think that's what made the cookbook club so popular and so engaging, because we were literally getting people so competitive who wanted to cook every single recipe from books. And that all shocked the chefs who took part in it, and it certainly did with Asma. But Asma in particular, like I said, she was on the Chef's Table, and she was chosen to be on the Chef's Table because her kitchen is just women. And not even just young women who have been through professional culinary school, but women who are mums, and women who are coming into the food industry at a later life. I mean, Asma herself started her restaurant when she was in her late 40s, which is quite unusual to do that these days. And she didn't work her way through normal culinary school. She started with a completely different career, a career in the law, I believe, and then moved into food. And this is what we're finding now, is that women who have got like great skill sets in other industries, such as finance, such as law, such as just research and general business, are thinking to themselves, you know what, I've always loved food, I always wanted to work in food, but how do I do that? And they don't necessarily have the food knowledge because they've not been training in culinary school, like most chefs who go into culinary school when they're like 17, 18. So they all they've known is cooking all of their life. But we're seeing now the whole generation of women coming into the industry at slightly older age. And they bring with that, obviously, a huge amount of experience, but also a huge amount of empathy. Because once they are successful, if you are somebody who has some empathy, and once you are successful, you just want to bring other people up with you with that success and bring other women with you. Obviously, there are certain people, like in any industry and in any occasion, who once they've reached their peak are like, that's it, you know, I don't really want anyone else up here with me. I'm happy being like top dog, and that's it. I'm just going to carry on being top dog, and I don't really been that bothered about, you know, helping the rest of the industry or helping new people move into the industry. But what we're finding is that particularly women, that is like completely not the case, and women do help other women. And a quote that still sticks with me now, that she said, which you can look at either positively or negatively. Obviously, I chose to look at it positively. A quote from Madeleine Albright. Obviously, you know Madeleine Albright being American, the American politician.
I know the quote.
You know, but I'll say the quote for people who don't know the quote. So the quote is, "There's a special place in hell for a woman that doesn't help another woman," and that resonated massively with me, because once women, because we are still, 2025, in a minority in so many, or in a minority in senior positions, I should say, in so many industries, that we need to help each other, to give each other the strength and the confidence and the power to say, yeah, we should be in boardrooms a lot more than we are, because we're just not in boardrooms. We're not running companies. We are, obviously there are a certain number that are, but not in vast majorities. And I think food, exactly to the point that you made, why it's more apparent in food than in anywhere else, because food in the world, women do the majority of cooking in the world. There's obviously always going to be an outlier. We can go to a house and say, oh, well, I'm the husband. Amazingly, I love cooking, and I do the most of the food cooking in my house. But globally, women do all the cooking, or most of the cooking, and also all of the food, or most of the food shopping. So therefore, we should be the most experienced to be able to work in food professionally. It doesn't make sense that for a profession where women are doing most of the choosing of the food, the choosing of the ingredients, the creating of the food, professionally, we are still in minority numbers when it comes to high levels and the boardroom head chefs, running food companies. We're still in small minorities.
Across all of your experience, media, hospitality, Great British Chefs, nom nom nom, all of it. In 2025, have you seen true change in the industry, or does the same gatekeeping still apply?
Good question. Yes and no. I mean, yes, the same gatekeeping, unfortunately, does still apply. It's getting better, because I think people recognize that it should change, because when you come up with figures like there is only one black woman female Michelin star in the UK, when you present that to someone, they're like shocked. They're just literally shocked. When you say to people there are probably still only 18 women in the UK with Michelin stars, it's a shock. It's 2025, it's not 1825. It's 2025. So that we should have many more women in those sorts of positions. So there is that. Yeah, there is an awareness, but a lot of that is not even necessarily just to do with the patriarchy or the hierarchy. A lot of it is because it's quite difficult to work in professional kitchens as anyone, but particularly as a woman, and particularly if you are a woman who wants a family and wants to bring up children, because it's the hours are tough, but that's the nature of hospitality. No one's going to change the tough hours, but they certainly can change their reaction to how they treat people who do want to work in those tough hours, and people who do want to take time off and have a child. Why then shouldn't they come back in a similar position? Or even if they don't want to have a child, or if they're caring, for an adult, or caring for their sister or brother, and also things like safety and traveling around at night. The hospitality industry is not only a hard physical industry, it does have those antisocial hours. You will be leaving the kitchen at like 1 o'clock in the morning or later. There are a lot of women that just do not feel safe leaving at that time in the morning. So therefore, it does need their employers to say, okay, you know what, we're gonna get you an Uber. Don't even worry about getting a train or a night, night bus, anything like that. If you are doing a late shift, we will give you an Uber, or we will, pay for most of your Ubers or whatever. That's not common across restaurants, and it should be.
In addition to those challenges and funding challenges and burnout, that's what you're describing, burnout.
Yeah.
What are the toughest hurdles that female founders face today? And are there any practical strategies that would help build sustainable, profitable brands?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's being taken seriously, really, is probably one of the biggest hurdles that most women face in the food industry. I suppose going back to that point about the fact that women are the cooks and are the homemakers, often when they're then seen as wanting to move into something professional, it's like, oh, this is a little hobby you've got, isn't it? And making jam or making, chutneys or wanting to start your own restaurant, you want to start a tea shop instead. Or if there are a man or a woman or a brother and sister running a restaurant, or pubs, there are many times when suppliers might go in and they'll ask to see the manager, and they'll be looking for the restaurant, and that's common. That is not that's not an anecdote. It's a very common, unfortunate situation. Is that women are just not naturally seen as the leaders in the food industry. It's usually, like I said, if they are co-founding or co-owning with a man, it's usually the man that one assumes is the senior person or is running the business.
So what leadership qualities do women in the food business need? What do they need to have to shape the future of food so that it does welcome us? And how do you stay bold in an industry that really still clings to tradition?
It's very difficult. And I think the way that we can do it is by certainly owning up to those things that exist. Because if we just pretend everything's all rosy and pretend that, it's 2025, everything's great, we're all like strong, it's all girl power and everything like that. And, there obviously all of that helps because it does make us more confident and it is helpful. But ultimately, at the end of the day, running any food business is hard, and we do need the strength to be able to ask for help a lot of the time. And I think that's what women in the food industry we try to do, is that through our events and through our networking events and through the sort of camaraderie and the community that we built up, we say, look, this woman has experienced the same as you. You are not the first person to have ever experienced burnout. You are not the first person to have felt that you are not being taken seriously. You are not the first person to experience imposter syndrome. And once you realize that, and once you can talk to other people who have been through, or other women in particular who have been through exactly the same situation as you will start nodding. It's all about empathy. You're all like, yes, okay, you did it. And you did it, and look at you now. And I think we're very open about saying, yeah, success is great, but we all know that success isn't like that. Success isn't like that.
Absolutely.
And then you're gradually, hopefully, gradually going up. But everybody has their ups and downs.
Absolutely.
And I think what's great now about social media is the sense of authenticity and honesty that we see a lot more than we used to in the past. Social media back in the day It's very much about showing the perfect face, showing yourself all like, everything's lovely. You wake up out of bed and you've got all your makeup on and stuff like that. People know that that isn't real anymore. So people are now being much more honest about the struggles that they're facing, about the times when restaurants are, when the industry is tough, about the times when they've gone to see a bank manager and they've just like been poo-pooed. And it's like, what makes you come up from that? And it's only by knowing that someone else has been through the same thing. It's like Asper Khan, I think the first time she went for a loan for her bank, she was told no. She was literally told no. It's like, well, you've got no experience of running a restaurant. Why? What on earth makes you think that you can run a restaurant? Was basically what she was told. And if she had settled with that, she would never have had the restaurant that she has now.
Yeah.
Another sort of even more contemporary person, say, look at Poppy O'Toole, who is a great cook, chef, food influencer, obviously much younger than Asma, is going to a different demographic. She's very much a TikTok audience. Again, when she starts, she was told, "Oh, you'll never do well in food. You haven't got the concentration. You haven't got the skills. You haven't got this. You haven't got that." She's now got like 1 million followers on TikTok, and she's been on so many TV shows. But if she had like sat down and thought, "Oh my God, someone's told me that, and that's it. Even if I'm not going to give up, I'm never going to amount to anything." And it's like thinking it is possible, but it's possible with like hard work and the support of your tribe, so to speak. It's the support of people who are in similar situations to you, people who have been through what you've been through, and people who can appreciate and empathize what you've been through, because no one's had an easy time in life, really. I can't think of anyone who would absolutely say, unless they're the royal family, who would say, "I've had a really easy time in life and I've had everything I want and that's great." But most people, life isn't like that. So I think it's that honesty that we need, and that honesty of being with other people who are prepared to be honest, but also people who are prepared to share their successes, and people who are prepared to say, "Look, this is what happened to me back then, and these are some of the strategies and these are some of the things that I did to get out of that."
Well, absolutely. Every woman needs sponsorship. Every woman needs mentorship, sponsorship even more, and a woman who is going to really employ the value of sisterhood to help each other, make it. Listen, we've been hearing about Christmas since Halloween, which does drive me crazy, a pet peeve of mine. But is there any food trend that we should be embracing this holiday season?
Oh God. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I mean, I think I like most Christmas food, to be perfectly honest. I'm a big fan of Christmas. I do like it. I do kind of think we are getting a little bit earlier with it each year. But working in the hospitality industry, I do think anything that's going to get people through the doors at the moment, and get them shopping, A, shopping for Christmas foods and things like that, thinking about their menu, and B, celebrating with their families and booking family tables and things like that is great. So I'm less of a, "Oh, why does Christmas come in November" type of person now. I'm more of a like, what, let's try and make the most of it. But in terms of food things, I was thinking about Christmas cake. Like I said, I love most Christmas foods, but I hate Christmas cake. I find it really dry, stodgy. I'm not a big fan of marzipan. The whole then level of like layer of royal icing that's put on the top is just kind of like, oh God. So I'm kind of like into things like naked Christmas cakes, and cakes that are maybe a bit more like a fruit cake, or maybe like a sort of like a Jamaican rum cake, or some sort of cake that has still got all of the, the great things, the dry fruit, the booze that you keep feeding it, but to take off the horrible marzipan and the royal icing and make it more of like a naked cake. I think Lorraine Pascal has got this great, like, I can't remember exactly what she calls it, but it's basically like a naked Christmas cake, which is boiled and then baked, and it's the same sort of like level of time that you would spend on it. And bearing in mind this, I believe it's this Sunday, certainly soon, is Stir Up Sunday, which is when you're actually supposed to start a month before Christmas. Start making your Christmas puddings and Christmas cakes and mincemeats.
Oh, yes. And my family tradition was my great grandmother used to make fruit cakes. And she would actually start the fruit cakes in March.
March, wow.
Feed them with rum
Yeah.
all the way up to Christmas.
Wow.
So one piece, like, half a piece of her Christmas cake, our fruit cake, what we call it, traditionally eaten at Christmas, would get you drunk.
I'm sure that's March is pretty early, but you know,
Unbelievable. Could you just see this? Like at the time when she stopped making her fruitcakes, probably by the time she was 95, people
yeah.
were still coming over to collect the Christmas fruitcake because it was like buying a bottle of rum with, an amazing cake, mixed in.
I love that. I love that. I love the idea of yeah. I do like family traditions like that, and I do like the whole concept of the stir up Sunday because it does make you start thinking. Here is something that's going to be ready on Christmas Day, but I've got to start preparing it like about a month before. So it's always the first Sunday in Advent, which I'm pretty certain is actually this coming Sunday. And that's when you're literally supposed to start mincemeat, Christmas pudding, and your Christmas cake.
I love that. So Mex, what are you going to be serving up at Christmas? What's going to be on your Christmas table, or are you going to someone else's?
Yeah, I'm going to my brother's, so which I do every year. So yeah, I mean we're kind of ish traditional, I suppose. But my family are Nigerian, so there will be some turkey, but there'll probably be a bit of jollof rice as well.
Mm.
So it's a bit of a mix, and I will probably just bake the mince pies. Like I do like a mince pie. I do like
Mm.
pastry, and I'm quite keen actually this year to try, which I've not tried before, but I keep hearing so much about them. A Jocelyn Dimbleby's deluxe mince pies. So she makes the pastry and puts like orange peel in the pastry, so it gives them
Mm.
a citrusy thing. And then I think before she puts the pastry lid on top, she puts like a layer of orangey citrusy butter. So you have the mincemeat, then you have the orangey citrusy butter, and then you have the lovely orange pastry on the top. And apparently that that mince pie, those mince pies, the deluxe mince pies, she made in an old Sainsbury's, or the recipe was initially in an old Sainsbury's magazine, like years and years and years old. And every year, lots of people say Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without one of her deluxe mince pies. So I'm gonna have a try of those this year, rather
Excellent.
than
Excellent. Excellent. And we'll make sure our readers know about those as well. Um,
great.
Final question. Christmas music. Love it or loathe it?
Again, I quite like Christmas music, and I think as well because of the I like carol singing. You know, I'm also a social media volunteer for our local food market in Kew, and so which will be on the 7th of December. And we'll be having carols as well as we always have two live bands as well as 50 stalls of foods and arts and crafts. And so we'll be doing some carol singing there. And I do like a good carol song. But what I'm increasingly liking more of at the moment are songs which you don't necessarily associate with Christmas, but because they are in one of the big ads, like the John Lewis ad or the Waitrose ad. So this year, obviously, I don't know if you've seen the John Lewis ad. It's got Alison Limerick's classic disco anthem, Where Love Lives, which is not a Christmas song at all. But because it's in that ad, it's now become like one of my favorite, one of my new favorite Christmas songs. So I like things like that. I like
You
things.
and many others. You and many
Yeah.
others. Actually, I lied. Just a couple more things.
Okay.
What piece of advice would you give any young woman, founder, chef, creative in the food industry for 2026?
I think get the confidence in yourself. It's very easy for me to say that, being in the industry for a while. But I think even if sometimes you can give the appearance of confidence, even if you don't necessarily feel you've got it, that goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so stand up, be bold, and be confident, and like own your position. Feel that you are worth being there, you are very much are like kind of worth it. I say you're worth it using the L'Oreal phrase because on Saturday I was at the Good Housekeeping Country Living Christmas Fair, and one of the keynote speakers was Andy Oliver, who's an amazing person who's obviously, that she's as well as being a great TV presenter, she's been the main presenter of Great British Menu for years now. And she was talking about her beauty tips, and you're like, what? Andy Oliver talking about beauty tips? Not that she's not beautiful at all, but it's like, I've only ever heard her talk about food. I've never heard of her talk about her beauty tips. And she has now got this sort of like inner beauty and inner glow. And she's now one of the L'Oreal Worth It women.
I know, I love it.
Yeah, which is absolutely incredible. But she is very much about owning your place and being proud of who you are. But she admits, like most people, a lot of that comes with age. And there's again like a lot of thing about women. Once they hit 50, we're kind of seen as invisible. We should be we should be in the shadows. We shouldn't be pushing ourselves forward. And obviously that isn't completely the opposite really of what should happen, because with age comes confidence and the experience and the fact that you've been through ups and downs and knocks and people pushing you back, and you still manage to make it. So I would say get confidence, learn from others who've got confidence, and kind of move a little bit outside of your comfort zone, because you never kind of like grow by just doing the same old all the time. And I think what social media does is it makes us think that everything, as I said earlier, is perfect. Even with the move now towards more authenticity, there are still a lot of people who will not put up a reel or not put up something because, oh my God, because I don't like the music in this, or I didn't shoot it properly, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. Most people spend 3 seconds looking at Instagram if you're lucky. So just get it out there, and hopefully
get it out there.
Just get it out, get a voice, get out, get confident.
And what's on the horizon? Final question, I promise. What is on the horizon for women in the food industry? What are we going to be looking forward to? Any new projects, partnerships, conversations in progress?
Yeah, I mean, generally our weekly, not even weekly, our fortnightly newsletter, which is 100% now fortnightly. It used to be monthly, but we now have so much news. It's fortnightly. That is still going strong. What we are trying to do more of next year are events outside of London. So the majority of our events are still pretty much in London, but I've got this great team of volunteers up in Yorkshire who have been putting on a brilliant series of events for me up in Yorkshire, various parts of Yorkshire, and they'll be carrying on doing that next year. We've got 2 Christmas parties coming up. So Christmas party in London on the 8th of December and Christmas party in Yorkshire at Ruth Hanson's restaurant on the 2nd of December, or maybe even the 1st of December. Look on our website. They're both on our website. They're in our website under events. But yeah, so definitely more events are not just in London. We've done things in Scotland. I'm going up to Bristol actually tomorrow. We're going across to Bristol tomorrow. We'll be looking to do things in Manchester. So yeah, getting things outside of London, which is really a big aim of mine, and also to get more sort of like, not even if they're not named mentorships, but to get women who are senior and have had success sharing that knowledge with others, which they naturally do through a lot of the events that we run. Whenever we run events, there's always like a strong panel and a very mixed panel of people that have been quite experienced on a particular topic to the youngsters and to the people that are up and coming in the industry. But we've certainly found that there are amazing women who have run businesses. So somebody like Ramana Hassan from Ramana's Hummus, that bright yellow hummus, which you see everywhere, literally everywhere. She's great. She is, her business has been running 20 years and is in every single supermarket in the UK. She is the #1 hummus brand, and she is so generous with her time and giving back. to the industry. So finding more people like her to work with and to share their knowledge. There are loads of that. Lynn, you'll have to share some knowledge with us as well next year.
I'd
I'd
love
love to
to.
have you. I'd love to have you at one of our events. But yeah, talking about that confidence and coaching people and a sort of like an informal mentorship. We might not call it a mentorship scheme, but we're definitely seeing more and more women who are so keen to give back and to help others and
Fantastic.
support.
I mean, listen, Max, I've seen how you've grown and how devoted you and passionate you are about this, and it is wonderful to see that your colleagues and industry insiders, not just your following, believe in what you're doing and that they know how important it is. So thank you so much for sharing time with me today. That's it for She Means Business. See you in January in the new year with some new fresh faces and great ideas and inspirations for you. Thanks again.